Johnston with No Forsyth, and I'm here today with the Harden family of Forsyth County. Meet Matt and Andrea Harden, and they have a really interesting and wonderful story to share with you today. Thank you for joining me.
Well, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So Matt, you are one of our military men of the community. Tell me a little bit about your story and how you got into the Navy and what you're doing now as a military man.
Absolutely, yeah, thank you. So I, out of high school in California, I got an opportunity to go to the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. So in 1995, 2 weeks after graduating high school in California, I hopped a plane. My parents said, "See you later," and sent me on my way to Maryland, and enrolled at the time at the Naval Academy for what was a fun 4-year journey.
And you played football for them, correct?
I did play football,
what
yes.
What position did you play?
I played fullback.
Okay.
In Paul Johnson's triple option, which Navy still runs today. So
very nice.
All the Georgia Tech fans out there, yes. Paul was my coach for the first 2 years. Great man. Love him to death. But it was a tremendous opportunity to play Division I football, and at the time, at 18 years old, looked at this as a career. I said, yeah, great, they'll pay for me to go to school and play football, and they're going to give me a job for 5 years. And at 18, I figured I had 9 years to figure out the rest of my life, right? And upon graduation, I took the opportunity to fly airplanes because I was qualified to, and so I started my flight training down in Pensacola, Florida, and then went to Corpus Christi, Texas, and winged in 2001, went to Jacksonville, Florida, which was when 9/11 happened.
So my grandfather was stationed at NAS.
NAS, that's where I went through training, yeah. So NAS Jackson lived right across the bridge on San Jose Boulevard right there.
Okay, very nice.
Yeah.
My grandparents were in Orange Park.
Yeah, right by base right there.
Yeah,
no, Jacksonville was good, but 9/11 happened, and that just changed everything. And so I was joining a squadron out of Hawaii that I knew was going to be deployed, and so I finished my last flight in training in the P3. I hopped in my car in Jacksonville, drove it all the way to California, put it on a boat to Hawaii, and I hopped a plane to Singapore and ended up in Diego Garcia in the middle of the Indian Ocean on a Friday night. I'll never forget, it was St. Patrick's Day because most of the guys were out at the club having a good time. Yeah. And Sunday, I was in Masira, Oman, and joining a crew where we were doing overland intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance for the first ground campaigns that were going on in Afghanistan. So I was really getting thrown right into the fire, and honestly wouldn't have had it any other way. It was a tremendous experience. So I did that for my first deployment, got back to Hawaii, was getting settled in, learning Hawaii and getting to know the island and love it, and happened to meet her.
That's where Is that where you came into the picture?
Yes.
And where did y'all meet? In Hawaii, but what city, what place, where were you?
We were at a bar in Honolulu, in Waikiki. Not downtown Waikiki. It was old Honolulu. It's no longer there, but she was.
I was there with a bunch of some old sorority friends.
Okay.
So we do like a yearly girl trip, and that year we were in Hawaii, and
wonderful.
So I was a teacher in California, so I lived in California, and I met him, and which was just silly because I was on vacation. I was like, I'm like not gonna.
He was a man in port. He was
I was like, this is silly, but.
It's hard being married to a Navy man.
At this point, we were just dating, so I was like, okay, this is from a girl who has had zero military, So I was kind of like, oh my gosh, and then, some of his friends were married back in Hawaii, and they have the support system, I know we were just dating, but I was like, oh, okay, how do we handle this? But we got through it, and he came back.
Well, from the military, you growing up around it, I mean, sure you've heard stories or saw it yourself where I witnessed it, where I had young sailors that, worked for me that went through horrible divorces. I mean, every story you hear out there is true, right? And guys who were married or dating, and so I said, look, if this is going to be long term, and I don't know if the military is going to be a career for me, I at least need to see if we can make it through a 6-month deployment.
It was the test.
Exactly. It was your test.
It was both of our tests, really.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard.
So you got married.
We did.
And you had 4 girls.
We did.
Or you have 4 girls. You didn't have, they're not in the past. They're here.
Yeah.
And they're young. And you left, you retired from the Navy.
Yeah, so I left active duty in 2008, and I
Okay.
affiliated with the reserves. And so we had two of our children at the time.
6 months and a year and a half.
Yeah.
Okay. And you were living
In Texas.
In Texas.
Yeah, so I went after Hawaii. I was a flight instructor in C-12s down in Corpus Christi, Texas, where our first two kids were born. And then decided that it was time to get out and stop deploying and,
Now, did you know as a reservist that there was a possibility for you to be deployed again?
Yeah, I mean, that's the motto of a reservist is always ready, right?
Yes.
And so the jobs that I've taken have been focused more in the 7th Fleet for the Navy, which is Japan, Korea, that area of operations.
That wasn't the case 2 years ago.
Right. So I always figured if I got deployed, it might be over to North Korea, for example, would have done something which would have recalled my entire unit. And then, yes, you're right. 2 years ago in 2017, I got a phone call out of the blue that I was getting mobilized, right, deployed.
And your heart sank.
Yes. So he got the phone call on his own, and at work or here?
I was working from home that day, yeah. And so I took the phone call and didn't say anything. We actually sat down, had a family dinner, and then put the kids to bed, and we were sitting right here on this couch.
Yeah,
And I said, by the way, I got a phone call today.
Yeah, it was you could just tell, like he was sitting right
Preoccupied.
there, and he was like, hey, I really want to talk to you about something. And I was like, okay. He told me, and I was just like, immediately. I was like,
sure.
are you kidding? And especially just Afghanistan, because we had known, we'd had some other friends that, had different deployments. They went to,
Djibouti.
not maybe so
Iraq.
dangerous
Well,
place.
Right.
I mean,
Well, it was a long time. It was a year. I mean,
as far as the community, I mean, our neighbors are amazing.
Yeah.
We have, the community here is just beyond words.
Tell us what it was like when you came home.
yeah, it was amazing. It really was. And I described to a lot of the guys and gals that I was deployed with that, I was fortunate that the community in which we had landed, and we've been in Georgia since 2012, initially in Johns Creek, and we love Johns Creek, but, through youth sports and, school and things like that, we found out and learned about kind of South Forsyth and Forsyth County, and we were like, let's check this out. And so once we did, we really made it a focus of ours to end up here, right? And so it was a fun journey for us because we were in no rush, right? We kind of said, okay, here's where we'd like to be, and so let's wait for the right opportunity. It wasn't where we had to find something in the next couple of weeks. And so we've been here for almost 4 years, and the community has been nothing but outstanding. We are so blessed to have the neighbors that we do, and the schools that our kids go to, I mean, are just amazing. The community in which we live, it truly is a true community. And so I would always tell people I was deployed with that I don't live on base, and I live nowhere near a military base, but it really does feel like my family's in that on-base community. And so when I came home, it was funny, a couple of neighbors were telling her, because they came and met me early at the airport with signs and everything. They're like, look, so I'm like, let's just go grab breakfast. She said, no, neighbors are up to something. We got to get home. I don't know what's going on.
They kept on texting me and saying, I need to know what time you'll be pulling in with Matt. I'm like, well, I mean, we're going to go to breakfast. I don't know,
It's like the ticker tape parade, right?
And then, and then I was like, I feel like they're up to something. I think they're doing something. And then I was like, we should just go straight home, and
it was cool. I mean, it was
did.
amazing. We pulled in the neighborhood. They were all out. It was early morning. It was cold, pajamas, ski caps. In fact, one of our neighbors whose father was in town, who was a former Marine, who came through Vietnam, he's like, we're going. I'm going out there because I came home and I had nothing like this. And so he came up and shook my hand. And it just goes to show what an amazing community in which we live, and how everyone around here understands what we were going through, and they put themselves out to make sure Andrea and the kids were taken care of, but then show their appreciation in that way. I mean, it was special. In fact, she posted it on Facebook, and I've gotten so many responses from folks I was deployed with and other folks I've served in the military with. They're like, man, your community is just amazing.
Do you know anyone else in our community that we have a lot of retired military?
Yeah.
even though we don't have a base very close.
Yeah.
A lot of reservists. So do you have some friends in this area?
It's a pretty remarkable story, actually. I'm in Afghanistan, and the way that we deployed the Navy, we were individual augmentees, which meant we weren't part of a single unit. We were all pulled up individually, but my title was theater chief, so I was the commanding officer of a 55-man drone operation. Okay. So we ran drones for special ops over there for the Army Green Berets. 3 of the sailors that worked for me were from, one was from Marietta, 2 from Forsyth County.
That's small world.
Small world. I went all the way to Afghanistan, Kandahar, Afghanistan. Actually, a funny story, they're all around Kandahar, and met them. And the one from Marietta has since taken another opportunity. She now lives in Kansas City. But the other 2, I've seen just as recently, a couple weeks ago. We went and had a drink at Cherry Street.
Well, I think what's important to me is that people know who our veterans are in our community, and to be mighty thankful for your service and for the wife's service as well, and the family's sacrifice that they make while you're deployed.
Yeah.
And on a daily basis. It is a different lifestyle, and it takes a different commitment to our country to serve.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Yeah, no, and to me and for us, most of the members I serve with, I mean, it's something we're proud to do, we're happy to do, and we enjoy doing it. I had a choice, I could have been done with it. I chose to stay with the reserves, and a lot of that was because I enjoyed what I did and I knew what would come with that. But you're absolutely right, yourself as a military brat, and the spouses and kids that go through it, to me they're the real heroes, because it's easy for us to go away and get focused on the task at hand, right? You just get into that world and you have nothing else to focus on.
Well, there's something to be said about, for you leaving everything you know behind and having to trust in someone at home to keep it going, so that when you come back, you can step right back in.
Well, that's it. The moms, the kids that are dealing with, an air conditioning unit that goes out, or homework, or the life, things that happen on a daily basis.
You plan to have a life with a partner, and all of a sudden they're not there. So
it's much harder, in my opinion, to get the person who's left behind has the harder job than the person who's actually deployed.
It wasn't as easy as we're kind of making it sound.
Right.
It was. It was difficult. There was a lot of crying from the girls. And,
well, that's what I was going to ask, is how hard is it on the girls when they really need their dad?
Yeah, so what was different, because he is a reservist, so we only had 2 kids when he was active duty, so they were little. They were 6 months and 18 months, so they don't remember that part of military for them. So they know him in the reserves, but it was like, daddy goes away for one time a month, and does his reserve duty, and then 2 weeks out of the year he goes away for the whole time, and that was really the extent of it. And so it was really hard. They really were like, I don't understand, why does he have to go? And
they're going to get it one day, and they're going to be so proud.
It's a unique experience, it really is, and you went through it, and so you appreciate it. And
I mean, having gone through this before, when you're a wife, you live on base, you have a lot of support. Your kids have support, you as a wife do, and that is something that I definitely missed, for my kids and myself. I was like, because I have great friends, and but it's just different.
It's a lack of just that general understanding.
Yeah,
it's hard to relate to if you haven't gone through it.
Yes, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, you know it.
And everyone has, life is hard in general and busy, and you'd hear your friends telling you my husband's not gonna be home tonight. He's on a trip, and that would just drive me bonkers. I was like, oh, don't say that around me. Just don't say it around me,
Because he isn't coming home tonight. He's going to be home for the weekend. He's going to be home next year. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on No Forsyth with Matt and Andrea Harden. I hope that you may get out and get to know your neighbors and find out if there's a veteran in your community, and give them the support and love that they deserve. Thank you for joining us today. God bless America.